Okay, so let's get into this much maligned subject of paternalism. To begin with, I want to say I am not advocating a return to paternalism. In fact, I don't give a shit if we return or not. I don't expect us to return anytime soon because once you let the animal out of the cage, it's hard to put it back in. I am not saying that we should even return to paternalism. I'm just exploring at this point what paternalism is, how it comes about, why it comes about, and what role it plays within the system. So let's begin with a brief definition taken from Wikipedia as to what paternalism is, according to the books. Paternalism is most typically refers to behavior by a person or organization or state which limits some person's liberty or autonomy for their good, or the liberty or autonomy of some group of people for their good. Some definitions of paternalism require, in addition, that the behavior is against the will of this person or persons, or that it is undertaken regardless of that will. Some definitions require, in addition, or instead, that the behavior expresses an attitude of superiority towards the person or persons. The word paternalism is from the Latin pater, for father, although paternalism should be distinguished from patriarchy. Paternalism is sometimes thought appropriate towards children, and paternalism towards adults is sometimes thought to treat them as if they were children. Examples of paternalism include laws requiring the use of motorcycle helmets, a parent forbidding their children to engage in dangerous activities, and a psychiatrist confiscating a sharp object from someone who is suicidally depressed. Now let's proceed to the definition of patriarchy. Patriarchy is a social system in which the male acts as the primary authority figure central to social organization and where fathers hold authority over women, children, and property. It implies the institutions of male rule and privilege and entails female subordination. Many patriarchal societies are also patrilineal, meaning that property and title are inherited by the male lineage. The female equivalent is matriarchy. That in brief. I think most people already know what patriarchy is, but most of their definitions always come through the slant, the propaganda of liberalism, and mostly from feminist sources. So let us explore now what patriarchy is and why it comes about. Now, because males in the past were necessary for their muscle, for their participation in armed forces, so as to enable a state to survive in a world full of enemies, pillagers, pirates, vandals. Males became essential for the health of a society. Plus, if you add to this the fact that the technologies were very inferior, underdeveloped in comparison to our own, muscle power was much more necessary than it is today. So men had to be integrated within the system. In other words, they had to become part of the social structure. They have to become investors within it, so as to then enable them to be loyal and to fight on behalf of the state. The only way to integrate males within the social system would be to not only give them property or the ability to own property, but also offer them the ability to reproduce, that is, to pass on their genes. Then the health of the system was something that concerned them, that would concern them. And in ancient Greece, the hoplites were men, farmers, who took up arms whenever the city-state was threatened. And why do they do this? So not only to protect their property, but to protect the female that was belonged to the male, and the children that she bore for the male. So he fought for selfish reasons on behalf of the state. The state was a community of shared interests. That is it. Now, how does one accomplish this, given natural selection and the role of females in biological terms? The female has evolved to be selective about genes, to procure the best genes for her progeny. And that would mean that a lot of females would have to be forced or trained or cajoled or seduced or manipulated into a system which would make them forego this natural tendency to sample the best genes and to pass on the best genes. And what was that system? It was marriage. In the West, it was monogamy, but there's other forms such as polygamy. With this method, this technology, this technique, the men became investors within the system. They all possessed a female that they could release their sexual energies upon, and she would carry and bear his children, making him dependent furthermore upon the state. Therefore, the female's sexual power, so to speak, her sexual choice, had to be curbed, had to be repressed, had to be controlled. The same thing happens actually in husbandry. When the farmer chooses for, let's say, his herd of cows, the bull he wants them to mate with, they don't choose it. The farmer does. This is a form of social engineering. So the female's sexual power had to be repressed using morality, using religion, using peer pressure, using law, which persists to this day, using education from an early age, indoctrination into the mythology of monogamy. In fact, human beings are not monogamous at all. They are polygamous creatures. Of course, this also means that the male's sexual behavior had to also be curbed, but less so. And why is this? Not only because the male was much more important at the time to the system, but more so because the male does not get pregnant. And whether he cheats and screws around, there's no long-term outcome from this. The family is not put at risk. Whereas for the female, this is not the case. She gets pregnant, and this could be damaging to the family structure, because the outcome of this is long-term. Of course, in modern systems with the methods used as contraceptives, this too has liberated females to become more and more promiscuous. Of course, in the early days, this role of father was also a spiritual one. The father represented the end result of an entire bloodline. That is, he was the manifestation of an entire past. He was the outcome of a history of becoming. And that's why he led ceremonies, spiritual ceremonies. He was the head of his family, but also the spiritual leader of the family. But a position of power, of course, does not only have positives, it also has responsibilities, negatives. The man was also responsible for every individual within his family. If his son or child was a thief, he also paid the price. If his wife broke the social rules and prostituted herself or slept around, threatening the cohesion of the group, he was held accountable. He was the leader of his family. And as a leader, he also, along with the privileges, faced the consequences of what this meant. And of course, men having to curb their own sexual appetites as well, were not permitted to to intrude upon another man's family. That is, they were not allowed to sleep with another man's wife. And of course, this is where the Ten Commandments come from. These are social rules. They have no divine origin. They're just simplified rules meant to keep in line uneducated people that could not understand certain things, could not read or write, and what to fear God, the ultimate authority, and also how to be given a reward for remaining loyal to the system's rules. So this was the original purpose of religion, to keep the masses in check, to keep them disciplined under penalty of eternal suffering. We might even say that God, at least as he is defined by monotheistic religions such as Christianity, is the absolute male, the absolute father figure. Under him all are subjects. This too is a form of authoritarian, paternalistic order, because males are all about offering order to the chaos. The chaos being, another word for the chaos, of course, being nature. And the representation of nature is often the feminine. Man, or the masculine energy, is the that which seeks to place order within increasing entropy or increasing chaos, or rather fragmentation. In the original pagan ceremonies, the ones being worshipped were not gods at all. They were the husbands, or the man's side of the family, his relatives, the males from his family that had come. In other words, his ancestors. So when a man performed the ceremonies, he was performing ceremonies to his own dead, his own line of dead. So the original God, the original father, was really the man's father, or the man's grandfather. And when a woman married, she automatically joined the clan of the man. She no longer served her father's line of lineage. She became part of the masculine side, his lineage, and her genes were integrated within this lineage, and from then on she became a member of that clan, of that family. That's what a family was. And of course, this was reflected in the laws at the time, and the laws of inheritance, where the firstborn male of each family was the one who took over when the father died. And every other male within that family either had to submit to to the elder brother's rule, or could move out and start his own clan. But he had to move out and start his own clan.